All right, so our last speakers are Mike Landsberg and Stephanie Cassone, both of whom come to us from Boston. Stephanie is a nurse practitioner in palliative care who works with the heart group there, and Mike Landsberg is one of the Boston congenital heart physicians who is finishing up a palliative care fellowship. So please give them your attention.
That was planned. Don't worry about it. He's got it. That was just for comic effect.
Good, thanks. Before we get started, everybody up for 1 second. Just stand up for 1 second. This is a matter of total control for me. I just want to see if you do it. Thanks. And just stretch or say, there we go. This is what I got during fellowship. This is what they teach me this year. All right, and back down again. Thanks. Can I ask you a question before we get started? How many of you have had the privilege of watching your colleagues interview a patient or family once your staff? How many of you have taken time to listen and watch? No, we have. Most of us have. Some of us have. But that's what this year has been for me. Just this honor of being coached for the entirety of this year in terms of communication, reflection, alignment, and how to best get across to our patients the things that we want to. And I've been quite fortunate to be able to have this, to have great teachers like my colleague to my right, to your left, Stephanie Cassone. And today we're going to, you're way too nice, guys. I'm sorry about that. It's on my account, I promise. Thank you both very much. We're going to spend the next 20 minutes, 20 minutes. Let me just see which buttons. Yeah, okay, good. We're going to talk about what's last on your profile, which says, hey doc, how long do I got? Talking to your patients about prognosis. And to me, it's a matter of communication, it's a matter of alignment, it's a matter of empathy, and we are going to look at that over some 20 minutes. I'm Mike Landsberg. I'm a fellow this year in palliative care. Steph Cassone is the leader of one of the programs at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, which is called HeartPal. It's a heart palliative care program, has a much larger census on a daily basis than what we do in congenital heart disease. I bow to your goodness and to what you do, Stephanie. There we go, mutual feelings. The objectives for what we will do are to identify verbal and nonverbal communication tools that assist in clinician and patient alignment, to recall 2 simple phrases that readily extend the understanding of patient concerns, hopes, and goals. You will walk out of here knowing those 2, and you'll be able to describe a template for discussion of prognosis for adults with congenital heart disease, so-called ask, tell, ask. Okay, simple template. And the 4th objective is that you're going to like this enough that in the future you're going to want to have more communication sessions like this, and you're going to ask the organizers of the course to invite us back again. That's a hidden objective. Okay. Steph, you're on.
Yeah, so those of you that know Mike know that he likes to be very interactive, so we are going to have an interactive session, just to perk you up at the end of the day. And so we really want you to think about a prognosis conversation. Your patient comes in, it's not planned. They come in and they say, what's my prognosis? And you think, should I answer that? Should I not answer that? Should I skirt by it? What's behind it? And so we are going to ask you to tell us, what do you think is possibly behind someone asking about their prognosis? Do you think it's data? Tell me, 50% of the population that, looks like you and sounds like you, will live this long, or do you think it might be something else?
If they're thinking about having a life partner or having kids?
Yeah, life partner, kids, absolutely, yeah, goals. What else? I know things are coming to your mind. What do you think? Yeah.
Maybe someone has told them, they need a transplant, but it wasn't one of their core providers, so then that triggers this
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Their friends getting attracted that for surgery and they're wondering why they're not.
Right, yeah, certainly in the very back there.
I think the same thing. Somebody they know had a medical event.
Absolutely, yeah. We know patients are connected by social media. I think about some of my patients that are part of the VAD warrior group or something like that, right? And those are positive, but at the same time, something might have happened, and then it starts prompting some questions.
Please. New symptoms.
Yeah, new symptoms. Anyone else?
Please.
A lot of times I'll find they don't do what we want them to do. They get the bad reaction. Now it's, all right, tell me really what my body's doing because I didn't believe it before.
Right, absolutely, yeah,
Right.
back there.
They Google their condition.
Right, Google Doctor, right, yeah, we know Google Doctor, yeah, certainly. Can learn a lot from Google. Probably the celery diet, as the registered dietitian was saying. I'm curious, but I'm not going to go there. Go ahead.
Uncertainty and relatability, so wanting to relate. I think we often forget that our patients don't know other patients with their condition.
Yeah,
So we're sort of the conduit for that information. And from our Fontan registry in Australia and New Zealand, we found the overarching theme on Fontan patients was uncertainty.
Luke, tell me some more about what you mean by uncertainty. Patients been brewing with uncertainty since their last visit. What may have prompted this uncertainty?
I call it the survivor history. These are people that were told they wouldn't make it past childhood.
Ooh, yeah.
Past 18.
I was told.
And et cetera, et cetera. And now, adult clinics and they've defied the odds, but what they don't know is the uncertain future that is still ahead of them.
There's always a narrative, right? I was told that I wouldn't make it past age 20. I'm 20 in a day. What's going to happen to me? Or I read about something on Google, or I suddenly have new symptoms, or my life partner is, or I'm about to retire, or there's always something underneath the question. It doesn't mean you don't have to answer the question. You do. You're looking for an answer. But without knowing what's driving the question, your data are only going to be part of the answer, and in fact, they probably won't be heard. You're going to spend an awful lot of time giving data that's not in a fashion that the patient wants to hear it in. And by not doing it in that fashion, you're not necessarily connecting slides. So alignment. Alignment is the central component, or is a central component of who we are with our patients. And I'm going to take you back. Alignment is part of humankind. I drew a circle around one of the centers of the beginnings of humankind in Africa, in South Africa, one of the earliest of languages, Zulu. People may know this. Do people know how somebody greets each other in Zulu? The word is sawubona. Sawubona, which means what? I see you. I understand you. I recognize who you are. I know who you are as a person. That's the greeting, not hello, how you doing? New Yorkish. It's I see you. Those of you that saw Avatar, you remember that's the same greeting. I see you. And what's the response that somebody has if you say sawubona? It's nigikona, which means what? I exist. Because you recognize me and who I am as a person, my entirety of existence is defined by that. What an incredible bilateral relationship it has in that single greeting. When we align with our patients, patient is going to be in brown, clinician in green. Patient speaks to us and we hear what they're saying. And likewise, we now in green and them in brown, when we speak, our patients are more likely to hear us. It's a win-win situation. And the beauty of this relationship in randomized controlled trials looking at this, patients, when they're thinking about us and reflecting about us as clinicians, they feel that we care about them more when we take steps to align. They are less anxious, they are less depressed, they are more likely to adhere to the regimens that we prescribe for them. And we as clinicians, when we take the time to align, we feel better about ourselves. It takes us on average only 5 to 7 minutes per session. That's it. You'll see today as we play act together that it is done relatively quickly. And we're less likely to burn out because we feel that we have some meaning with regard to the purpose and great work that we're doing. Curiosity, it's all about curiosity. My bride and I have spent a lot of time this year thinking about some of the patients that we've taken care of and where we not necessarily have aligned and have run into problems. And usually it's a matter of not being curious and having had biases with regard to what our patients have thought. When you're trying to deal with biases, the first statement is keep your head clear. If you're thinking about what you ate for breakfast that morning when you're in with a patient and you're not picking up on cues that they're giving to you, if you're thinking about the last patient encounter, you're thinking about it's the end of my day, geez, I can't make it to my kid's baseball game, you ain't ready to pick up on those small little cues in terms of your patient. Keep your head clear. And remember this picture right there. All right? The nonverbal cues, think about this owl. It's about partial head tilt. It's about open posture. It's about eye contact. The owl's staring. Don't stare, okay? That mild, ever so mild lean in. And there was no owls. I had to put the hands in there. I'm sorry about that. The arms uncrossed and open. Don't kid yourself. I walked down a hall. It's embarrassing. Stephanie said, what are you, the frickin' mayor of the place here? And I said, no. It's weird because you have this sort of smile and this head tilt. And so when I was at the Brigham, right, I walked down the hall, people that don't know me will say, how you doing? And there's the head tilt thing, it's the eye, it's the connection that we all do and we don't recognize, and people feel more comfortable with you and you're more likely to make the connection. Now, to be very careful, we have to use the connection for therapeutic purpose, and we'll talk more about that. Behavioral empathy. Empathy is effective to read somebody's affect. It is also, in terms of some cognition, understanding what to do with that. There are a whole bunch of acronyms which come in handy. And for right now, we're not going to spend time in tremendous detail thinking about them. One of them is NURSE. These are some randomized controlled trials that we'll speak about briefly to name somebody's emotion, to understand it, respect it, to support the patient through that, and to potentially engage the patient and to explore it further. That is about verbal communication. There are nonverbal cues. Solar talks about the nonverbal things that we said, and there's this term empathy, which also encompasses some of the other, both verbal and nonverbal cues. Both NURSE and empathy have been studied in randomized controlled fashion and shown that patients, again, less anxious, less depressed, more likely to adhere if we use these ways of connecting. And I said before, it's not about being a voyeur and just enjoying what you understand. It's about being therapeutic and about probing and learning more and turning it into the good work that we do. And how do we do that? Somebody says something and you want to elicit greater understanding. This is unbelievable. These are really simple phrases, and you'll be impressed about how useful they will be in your life. It's along an axis. One of the axes is I want to learn something in greater detail. What do you say if you want to learn something in greater detail? Tell me more. How difficult is that? Tell me more. Tell me more. It's something that we say all the time. It's all you have to say. You can say, oh, they're going to be bored. They're going to realize I'm playing with them. Tell me more. No, tell me more works really well. And people just tell you more. And then if you want to learn about more potentials about something, not just to probe in more detail, what else? It sounds ridiculous. The two simple phrases, tell me more and what else, they will open up for you tremendous amounts of information that you had no clue how to get before. And I have to tell you, I spent 30 years thinking about communication, and I didn't do this, and suddenly I tried a couple times. I'm going, oh shit, wow, that works. It works pretty well. Let's try it out. We're going to, on two occasions, we're going to do one now. We'll have a couple more slides, and then we'll do it again afterwards. And we'd love for people in the audience to watch Stephanie and me talk. We're going to pull up two chairs. We're going to face each other. If you can't see, stand up a little bit and watch us. And on your iPhones or on a sheet of paper, do me a favor, take some notes, because we're going to ask you to reflect. And if we don't get to everything, we don't get to it, but we'll play together. Steph, can we try this?
Yeah.
So this is a little bit impromptu. Nothing impromptu is truly impromptu. When you go to an improv, people have rehearsed skits together. It may not have a direct, word for word there, but Steph and I have thought about what we want to say, and we're going to try it out. Steph, you take the role right now of clinician. Okay. I'll be the patient, and we'll start off. We'll pass this back and forth. Can folks see us enough? Okay. Notes. in terms of what you've heard so far and if it's helpful or not, okay? We're going to be looking at each other, not at you all, because we're focused. I'm the patient, Stephanie is the clinician.
And I have some notes because Mike's a better ad-libber than me. So, okay. Hi, Mr. Landsberg. It's great to see you.
Hi, Nurse Cassone. Forgive me if I'm a little tired. There was a lot of testing today, and the office is kind of backed up. You're running about 2-3 hours late, as usual, and I'm kind of beat. I'd like to address some concerns that have been weighing on me for the longest bit. I'm not sure I have all the answers to them. I've been thinking a lot about prognosis, and I was hoping that we might be able to address that during today's visit.
Thank you. I can see it's been a long day. And I just want you to know my time is yours in this visit. Your concerns and questions about prognosis are certainly valid and very meaningful, and I appreciate you sharing them with me today. Mike, I've known you for about 10 years now, and this is the first time that you've actually brought up prognosis. So I'm just kind of curious if something has changed or there's something that's triggered in your life that's really brought you to have these concerns, and I was wondering if you could share that with me.
I'm not really sure what you mean. I think I mostly want to know what's in store in the future.
Tell me more.
I think it's reasonable to know what's coming down the pike. A lot's been on my mind, and a lot's been going on in my life, and I thought maybe you can give me a hand with understanding more.
I can see that you're concerned, Mike. Tell me more.
Abby and I have been going through a lot over the past 6 months. We had a pretty big scare. Thank goodness, I'm grateful that all the testing, the medical testing, has come back negative. We were pretty sure things were cancer for Abby. They're not. At least we know for now they're not, and we've got more testing to go. But it was a pretty rocky road for the past 6 months. And, I'm 59, and retirement's not that far away in my future, and I think both Abby and I thought that it would be useful for us to have a better idea of what's coming in our future to help us plan.
I can't imagine how terrible that's all been for you, and I know Abby, and you two are best friends and really strong advocates for each other, life partners, and I'm wondering if there's anything else that's triggering this conversation as well.
To be clear, you kind of know me, as you said, for a while. I'm a bit of a control person, and this one just totally rocked my control. Between my supports, between faith, between my friends and my own personal self-control, I was pretty not there. I just didn't know what was going to happen. And well, we're back on track from that one perspective. I think it would be helpful at this point to just get a regrounding of where we are with what's going on in my life and my physical health. And I think that'll help Abby and myself in terms of our future planning.
Well, I wanted to thank you for sharing this all with me. I know you quite well over these past 10 years, and these concerns are certainly important, and I think it will help shape this conversation about your prognosis.
Okay, so 4 minutes. Thanks. What did you see there? Okay, let's go back to what we learned before. What we, in terms of, I come in asking. By the way, Stephanie, thank you. I come in asking to talk about prognosis. Have we gotten there? Did you get any Kaplan-Meier survival curves? Any statistics yet? Did we get there? No. So what did we get, Sue?
Well, I'm just going to say, and please don't take offense to this,
Oh, it's coming.
that there's a lot behind it. But if I was the patient, I would almost be like, why are you avoiding what I'm asking?
So in many, so Sue raises the question of you better answer the question, right?
What I said.
Well, yeah,
That is,
boom,
I
again.
think that is a little bit.
Listen, Mike, there's been a considerable amount of time now. To be very clear, I tracked. It seems like it may be a long period of time, 4 minutes on the clock. And so with that said, you're right. It seemed longer, but I will say it seemed longer because we got some heavy stuff in there. It has to come. I will say to you, it has to come and it has to be there. Other? Yes, please, Leif.
Maybe I'll say what Sue's trying to say.
Never do that. Never do that. Okay.
I love you, Mike. So, you know, if you think about it as a journey and a goal, the patient is there for a goal, and they obviously appreciate the journey, how they get there. And this is very important. The bonding is the journey. But what if you deliver the message that the actual question that they're here for, answer that in a very empathetic way, and then talk about the why afterwards?
So.
Will that get you there quicker? Will that be more effective?
So, Leif, there's so much packed into that question. What about, why not just answer the question right up front and then come to all the other expression? What could one, and again, everything else that we have planned can be saved for another time. What's one risk of doing that? Shut down. So here's something that's very interesting. As soon as emotion hits your patient, you're done. Patient feels something intense inside, the ears shut down, the brain hears that last statement, and then we're done. So I think you're absolutely correct. So oftentimes we'll get some good work in there. You're right, you can't take a lot of time, but you try to get some fundamental work in there, foundational work, and then deliver the news, quit, respond to it, and then we'll come back. Good point. We'll take 2 more, then we'll move forward.
I thought the head of Stephanie started with the reassurance of my time is yours today.
Oh, that was so important. There was no defensiveness there, right? Once she would become defensive, I was ready. I heard what you said. I intentionally led with that just to be a little nasty. But, you know, we run late. I was looking to see if she was going to try to be defensive. But what did she say? Do you remember what she said? My time is your time. It's completely yours. Suddenly, I calmed down. I was revving. And well done.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a breather. Us as clinicians, we're going to go to the next phase, telling the news. All right, because we're going to tell the news. It turns out when we survey all of us in terms of what we like to do, we tend to be this, realists, optimists, or avoiders, okay? The realists of us, and it's interesting, 40-40-20, something like that when you take surveys of all clinicians. The realists, they say, look, patients need to have all the data to make informed decisions. We want them to have autonomy. The problem with it, you come off fairly blunt and people think that in fact, whoa, there we are, that you can be actually rather brutal in terms of just giving the data. The optimist says, look, I want to support patient hope. I want to make sure that patients are always feeling good about their future. The problem is that unless you tell patients the truth, they can be unprepared for the expected and unexpected outcomes that they may suffer. And the avoidance, data in aggregate don't tell me about the individual patient. I can never be able to really predict what's going to go on. And the problem is that patients feel that you're avoiding them just as you were hinting before, and you lose potential for confidence. Negotiation, the art of the deal. Sorry about that. It's all about negotiation, bringing yourself and the patient, locking each other in to make sure that you are listening to each other. It's parrying back and forth and back and forth. Hey, is this a good time to be talking about it? Sure it is. Okay, you just said it was, so you're going to be focused on me as we speak. Prognosis. What does prognosis mean? If we had all the time in the world, we'd go around the room. Does it mean how long am I going to live? How long will I live at a certain level of function? Is my function going to change? When? Do I have another operation coming? Do I have multiple hospitalizations coming? What's best case scenario? What's worst case scenario? Prognosis means something very different to every person. Ask, what's important to you as you think about your future? How much information do you need? Are you a big picture person? Do you like the weeds? What do you know already? How many times have we spent time talking to patients when they say, yeah, thanks for the last 20 minutes. I heard that last time. I really just wanted to know this one small thing. You go, fuck, spent so much time talking about that. And the last thing, patients don't always know the answer, and try to help them out. What would you like to know about your prognosis? I don't know. Well, some people will tell me that they like to know this. Others might tell me they like to know that. What works best for you? Normalize it. Help them out. And lastly, the last slide, a template. To remember. How do you remember before? Tell me more. What else? Ask, tell, ask. Begin the conversation. Check in. Is this a good time? What kind of information would be helpful for you? Check in. Lock the patient in with you. Ask permission. Ask what's needed. Partners the patient with you. Tell. Bluntly, short sentence, directly, this is what you want to know, and then stop and watch and observe and account and use cognition. What's the patient's emotion? And respond to it. They want to see that you're part of this with them. And just respond to that emotion. I see that you were rocked by that. Then ask again. Can you tell me what you're going to tell your best friend when you get home about this? What the patient hears may not be what you just told them. They may hear only the good, or they may hear only the bad. And you want to make sure that you have a good connection and that you know what your patient took away. Do we have 4 last minutes? Is that okay to play act? Can we extend?
I think the problem is that the abstracts have to come in this room.
Abstracts have to come. We're going to, you sure? We can, okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Tell me more. Tell me more. For the sake of this, let's reverse, okay?
Yep.
It's going to throw you off. You're going to have to read the, okay, here we go. Just to review, Ms. Cassone, thank you very much. I appreciate you. We're going to go back to the last conversation we just had. I appreciate you sharing with me the information. It's going to help me in terms of explaining for you, the best way I possibly can, the information about your future, so that might be helpful. Is this still a good time for us to continue the conversation? Yes. Okay. Would it be okay if I asked you a couple more questions?
Sure.
Stephanie, as you think about your future, as you think about your prognosis, what kind of information would be helpful for you?
I guess I'm not sure what you mean. I guess I would like to know how long I have.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If it would be helpful, some people will say to me, as I think about how the future is going to be at the youthful age that I am I going to stay this functional as I am for an extended period of time? If so, for how long? When might I expect that to change? Some people might want to know if they're going to have certain hospitalizations or procedures in the future. Other people may say to me, what's the best case scenario for how I'm going to do, and what might be some of the worst potentials? What do you think works best for you, Stephanie, as you think about the future?
Yeah, that's, I have been thinking about it, and I think, my functional ability, how long will I be able to maintain this functional ability? I think best case scenario, worst case scenario. My wife and I have a trip to Italy that we're hoping to get to in a couple years, and I'm just wondering if I'm even going to make it to Italy with her.
I think those are incredibly reasonable questions. Let me try answering. I'm hopeful, as you are, that it would be reasonable to plan for this special vacation that you're taking. And I'm quite expectant that if you're planning something 3 years from now, that you're going to be able to do it with the same vitality and the same energy and the same functional ability that you have now. In fact, if you're looking at the next 10 years, which is a reasonable period of time to look at, I would expect that you'll have the same functional ability the same ability to work, the same ability to be with your family over that period of time. With regard to best and worst potentials, I would expect to see you at your best, perhaps every couple of years, mostly for a check-in. And worst case, I think there's always the unexpected potential for threatening arrhythmia, for endocarditis. But otherwise, I think that's where we stand.
Wow. I have to tell you, I'm relieved.
You seem both happy and a little surprised by what I just told you.
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of agonizing over it. A friend of mine isn't doing well, and we have the same, condition, and I was starting to internalize it, and wondering if that is, if I'm going to start not doing well. And this has really been helpful. Thank you.
Stephanie, I'd just like to end. By the way, we should end here. But the last thing which I didn't do was check back in with Stephanie in terms of what she's going to tell her wife when she gets back home. We'll stop here because we do have. Thank you guys for letting us extend. From our perspective, I hope this was helpful for everybody. Thank you for letting us be out here with you, and we'll talk more about communication in the future. Thanks.